Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another conversation celebrating the launch of the José Neves Foundation. Today we have James Higa, a good friend and an incredibly inspirational person for me. James, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And James, I always have a big question, which is one of the reasons why I started the foundation and something we're very passionate about. If you look at companies like Apple and big tech, but also the entire digital economy and the value that has been created by not only large but also small startups. Um, and at the same time, you see companies from the old economy. Struggling to adapt to the current times, and therefore there is a risk of higher unemployment. And my concern, and I know it's one of your concerns as well, is that this creates a gap between the new economy and everyone else. And how do you think we can, all of us, help bridge that gap? Um, and how do you where do you think the role of philanthropy and also the role of digital skills and education is in making sure there's an equitable future for all of us?
You bring up a really important point because, in many ways, creating the technology is the easy part. And the role of philanthropy is to close this gap of inequality where some people have the technology and other people don't. This is the defining issue, I think, of our generation. And I first started to feel this and see it when I was at Apple in our headquarters where we have all the technology, we have the networks, we have the bandwidth, we have the tools, we have cafeterias, I can get my car washed while I'm at work. We have all the amenities, and yet 2 blocks away, there were children who were going hungry or mothers who only wanted a decent education and a laptop for their children, and fathers who just wanted a shot at a dignified job. And this is the inequality gap that is only 2 blocks apart. And I believe the role of philanthropy, the work ahead of us, is how do we bring these tools to the rest of us, to everybody, so that everyone from the grassroots can be empowered. Because think about the iPhone and how it's changed photography and given so many more people a chance to be creative with that art. Think about the Macintosh and how it's changed music, where you had to be rich or have a label agreement to go into a studio. Now anybody with a laptop in their basement can create music and have success in that industry. So the role of philanthropy is how do you bring that technology into the world, widely dispersed, so that all people have access to it. Close that opportunity gap because the real power, the real engine, the real creativity lies with those grassroots. And when you can close that gap and give people the tools, that's when you will see innovation and creativity just explode.
Let's talk a little bit about philanthropy. And I know you're very passionate about it, and you have an incredible um, foundation, the Philanthropic Ventures Foundation in the Silicon Valley. And um, what was your vision with the foundation? How do you see tech entrepreneurs such as myself and others being able to give back and enter philanthropy, and what impact can we make? And also any specific examples that you've seen through the Philanthropic Ventures Foundation of impact. I think impact is really important. I know it's very important for you as well. In our foundation, it's all about impact. It's how can we really measure the return on investment of our time, of our donations, and what learnings could we have from you, and what vision do you have for your own foundation?
Yeah, I tried to take a lot of the learnings that I had in my career in tech and apply it to philanthropy at Philanthropic Ventures Foundation. And one of those things is this notion of speed and a bias for action, and to try to do things and take the friction away. PVF, Philanthropic Ventures Foundation, we're known for our average 48-hour turnaround on most grants, and that is radically non-bureaucratic because
That's
we
incredible.
believe
Yeah.
in people. It is, and we challenge all these other foundations to try to shrink their year-long approval process or their half a year process or even a quarterly process. And maybe you can't get it down to 48 hours, but how about a month? And I mean, most places find it very difficult to do that. But as you know, in tech, we have to move very, very quickly to take advantage of opportunities. And what you want to do with the best ideas, we think of ourselves as early stage philanthropists, much like early stage investors. And we believe in people. And it just may be the two of you in your home, in your dorm room. You have an idea. Nobody believes in you. Everybody thinks it's too risky. We want to be there to be the first check. And nothing pleases us more at PVF than many years later, somebody comes back to us and says, we would not be here today had it not been for that first check that you wrote so many years ago. And that's the reason we try to really have a bias for action and give good ideas, because ideas are very fragile when they start. And we want to protect that fragility, and we want to get those ideas into the world as quickly as possible. The other thing that I've tried to bring in is this notion, what I call radical collaboration. And all the great projects that I worked on has been a product of this radical collaboration. The Macintosh desktop, the user interface, as we know it, was hand-drawn by Susan Kerr, a graphic designer. And at first, everybody thought, what is a graphic designer doing on a development team? But it was that kind of collaboration that produces the masterpieces that change the world. And so those are the things that I try to bring into philanthropy. And I think this idea of collaboration, this idea of innovation, of trying new things is really, really important, even in the philanthropic world. And let me give you a few examples of what I mean by that, based on kind of just recent grants that we made during COVID times. One is called Eat, Learn, Play. It's an organization that is now reopening restaurants in Oakland that have closed down. And they're reopening restaurants not to serve customers, but to make meals for schools whose children were on the free lunch program but can't get lunch anymore. They're making meals for hospitals and first responders. They're making meals for elderly people who are locked in and can't get out, and distributing those meals throughout the community in Oakland. And the reason I really think this is an interesting, radically collaborative idea is it's working with restaurants, it's working with the school district in Oakland, it's working with the city, it's working with Steph Curry, the basketball player, whose organization is Eat, Learn, Play. It's working with World Central Kitchen, that has prepared many meals for disasters, and all bringing this together. But even more interesting for me is it points to a new idea, which is that COVID has shown the fragility of these large, big box, worldwide, just-in-time supply chains. And this idea of making food in restaurants, decentralized, distributed, points the way to possibly the way things could be done after COVID. And maybe all hospitals and all schools will now, rather than sign a check to the big national low-cost caterer, will work in this way in a much more local, in a much more circular, in a much more decentralized food supply chain. So that's an idea for radical collaboration. We also made a grant to a organization or initiative called Reskill America, which is run by Career Karma, which is a platform to match people to boot camps. And as you know, there are many boot camps to learn programming in the United States. And this is a platform where you can go find the one that works for you. They match you up. In many cases, these boot camps are free and on an income share arrangement. But what Career Karma saw was that there were many small, medium-sized businesses, especially with underrepresented owners, like Black business owners, who had gone under and gone bankrupt. Well, what do you do to help these people? And they naturally thought, like you did, that helping these people reskill up their capabilities to either reboot their business in a better way or go into a programming job was a good idea. So they've teamed up, and now also, not only do they help these people who have lost their business get into boot camps, but we made the grants to also help provide notebooks and computers so that they can participate in the boot camp. And you know, these are, I think, examples of one, move fast, have a bias for action, and two, radically collaborate with government, with cities, with the community, with organizations. And I think these two things are probably also going to be the key for you.